Hello, and welcome to the lesson plan on symbology. This falls under the unit of shapes and forms, and we're going to be looking at how we use shapes to create symbols to disseminate information. So first off, what is a shape? Well, a shape is a flat two-dimensional object that can be closed or open. In this case, you're looking at three shapes of trees to create a symbol. This symbol represents the forest. So how do we use symbols to convey information? Well, if you follow the arrow up in the picture, you'll see it's pointing to a sign. And that sign has an arrow that's turning to the right with a line strike through this. Even if you're in a foreign country, you can look at the sign and you can say, well, there's no right turn ahead. So the very fundamental use of symbols would be to convey information even when you're in a different country that speaks a different language that you do. Here you can look at the signs and you can tell what's going on nearby, whether there's food, restroom, construction in this case, and you can use this information to help you on your way, even if you don't speak the language. Alright, let's take a minute and look how these symbols are used. These are some of your most basic and most common symbols that you're going to run across, especially when you're on the highway or in places like an airport, a mall, or any type of business center. The first one is becoming a bit outdated. That represents a phone. But now we've switched mostly to cell phones, so I'm assuming eventually that symbol will have to change. What are your thoughts on the rest of these symbols? What do they mean? Okay, let's continue to look at these symbols for a little bit longer. Do you know what all of them mean? Can you figure it out? It's okay if you don't understand one or two of them, but for the most part, you should get the gist of this. Some symbols are location dependent. You're not exactly going to find this sign anywhere else other than the coastline. And even then, you usually have to have some surf spots nearby. If you were to go hiking in the mountains such as Lake Tahoe, you might come across some of these signs. They're yellow to indicate warning or danger, and the symbols of the bears tell you what type of danger you might run across. You may not know it, but you're always looking for signs and symbols in everyday life. I'm sure you've been out in public and the first thing you look for, well, it's this sign, because you have to go. Symbols are also used for branding. Branding lets you know what company or product you are using. For instance, if you wanted to make a tweet, you'd go on your phone and you click the Twitter button. If you wanted to post an image on Instagram, you'd go on your phone and you click the icon or the symbol for Instagram. So we've already discussed what symbols are and how we use them. We also look at the different applications that we can apply using symbology, such as giving directions or product information. But what is the driving force for creating new symbols? I really want you to take a minute or two and think about this. What are the reasons that we need new symbols? What changes happen in the world that require us to have a new symbol? Well, hopefully you figured it out. Technology is the main driving force for creating new symbols. But changing technologies can also mean old symbols become out of date and meaningless, much like the phone symbol might become outdated in the near future. Here's a couple of examples of modern symbols. You have the Wi-Fi logo, you have the USB charging station, and you have the refresh logo that you'd find on a computer while you're on the internet. These symbols meant absolutely nothing to my grandfather. In fact, they didn't exist when he was growing up. Not only do these symbols mean nothing to my grandfather growing up, they meant nothing to me either. These symbols weren't invented until after I was out of high school. The Wi-Fi logo came in 1998, but majority of people had no idea what it was because we didn't have cell phones that could use Wi-Fi or other electronic devices. The technology was too new. Here's my personal challenge to you. Take a week and observe how often and how many symbols you interact with. Once you begin to notice how often you interact with symbols, you'll see how important they are to communication and how we use shape in everyday aspects of our lives, and how our symbols are going to shape our future and the way we interact with each other in new ways.